You're watching the Pandemic Proof Singer Series. I'm Danielle Tucker. I'm a singer, vocal coach, singer with the Mighty Untouchables band. And I'm going to be hosting a summit coming up in November. So save the date for November 16th, 17th, and 18th for the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit. It's going to be an amazing program with it's incredible speakers. All speakers lined up to talk about how the singer moves forward in 2021. We are going to have Dave Stroud, Dorian Hawley, Natalie Weiss, and so many others. It's going to be amazing. So I'll talk more about that later, but let's get to the really good stuff. And that is my beautiful guest with me tonight. I know her as a highly sought after singer in San Diego. She's amazingly soulful. She has incredible charisma on stage. But nowadays, a lot of people know her from season 18 of The Voice. This is
Yay.
Cedrice.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know it has. Um, so since since The Voice was recent, let's jump into that first and just talk about I'd love to hear about the experience because during your season is kind of when all of the COVID stuff hit and they started changing the format of the show kind of mid-show. So what was that like?
Yeah, you know, when you have your space where you create and where you write and kind of get in that headspace, the stage is definitely that for me, and LA was that for all of us as the contestants. So when we got on the train to go to Los Angeles, we knew it was work time. So when we had to stay home and set up all the equipment at our house, it was really hard to kind of channel
Yeah.
that headspace and get into performance mode. At least for me, it was a little bit difficult to kind of transition from one to the next. But eventually we ended up having it work. I was really surprised and very pleased with how communicative everyone was on the production team, how fluid everything worked. I didn't know that my Wi-Fi could be that good to be on a television show. So
Yeah.
it was an adjustment, but it was cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So did they have you personally setting everything up for yourself or did you have someone come and set those things up, stage
No.
it?
They had someone drop off all the equipment.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And because we don't know what the next episode holds, we had the equipment for the next performance at our house.
Mhm.
So it was a lot. My boyfriend helped me with, some of the setup, but for the most part, it was just me and on the phone with tech or on Zoom with the audio people and the staging and the
Yeah.
lighting people. It was really interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I was so impressed with the way they did kind of handle it seamlessly. I mean, the way they produced it was amazing and you were incredible. Every performance you gave was just incredible.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
we were all
that.
so proud of you. You're back here in
Thank
San
you.
Diego. Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. So, speaking of which, you're back here in San Diego singing before The Voice happened. What compelled you to go and audition?
Well, I mean, everyone's kind of looking for the next gig that, you know, it pushes you towards more stability, I think.
Hmm.
And I had just gotten off of, I had just finished a contract with Jameson Whiskey, so I was on tour with them, and it was like a year-long tour. And so, like, every month or every other month, we kind of left to a different city, and it was really good pay. So then I kind of just stumbled into the studio because my cousin asked me to come to one of the shows on The Voice for last season. But they do everything like months in advance. So this was an episode that wasn't gonna show until like 2, 3 weeks from then. And at that episode, I met one of the contestants' mom and dad, and they're from San Diego. Her name was Kendra, And so they were like, yeah, they get put up in a hotel and they get this much money. And they were just kind of giving me the digs. And I was like, really? You get paid to be on
Sounds
the
good.
show? So that was like one thing. I was like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And then I thought to myself, I do need a challenge. I do need to figure out what I'm made out of. And so I auditioned and I got further. And this was the third time that I had auditioned. So
Mm,
I didn't think I would get this far. I mean, I didn't think I would get so much of the experience that I did,
okay.
being on three different people's teams. But yeah, I think really just like being in a competition, trying to figure out what I was made of, and then also being able to have that financial stability. Those were the reasons why I joined.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you did. So, what would your advice be to somebody who is thinking about doing this now?
Oh man. So since this is the third time I auditioned, I would definitely say I think I got past because one, I had already started seasoning myself as a professional singer and performer. So when I went out to audition, it wasn't just like some little coffee shop, a casual audition. It was like a big audition, and I took it seriously, and I didn't take it seriously back the two times that I had done it.
Mm,
Um, so I had a better sense of the kind of performer I am and the kind of songs that fit well with my voice and whatnot. So I would definitely suggest um, to to really get to know your voice and get to know, who you are as an artist and a performer.
mm,
That would be one advice. The other advice I would say is that a reality TV show is not a place to um, uh, it's not it's a TV show. So just remember that. Um, if you are a singer, if you're a professional singer, this is not the end all be all. It's just to get your social media followers up, get some exposure. Like this is really the gig that you can take for exposure,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And they pay a little bit, which is nice. So you get treated like a professional performer. You don't have to come out of pocket. So definitely establish yourself as a singer, as a performer, as an artist.
Mhm.
Figure out who you want to be, because when you get on TV, they will mold you how they see fit.
Mhm.
Not that it's, not like it's the 90s or the 70s where they'll just kind of completely change your image, but it's good for you to have a good sense of self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's such great advice. I think that's so true. And that really came across in your performance too, because, you come on stage and you, just like they said, I mean, you perform like a goddess. You own
Oh,
it, and your voice is incredible. Just your artistic styling it's just so natural. You know your voice, you know who you are as a performer. And that really translated,
thank you.
in all the performances you gave. And it's great advice, for people who are kind of newer to at least the professional industry of music.
Mm,
I think someone less seasoned as a singer doesn't realize that it's great to just be a naturally great singer, but there's nothing like on stage experience and being in front of a lot of different people, big audiences, small audiences. It changes you internally, and it really conditions you to let your artistry emerge more naturally, less nerves, or learning how to handle the nerves.
yeah, yeah, that experience really helped me in the long run because I'd been performing for 4 years professionally
Mm-hmm.
before I actually got on the show. And
Mm-hmm.
that if you gain that confidence enough in yourself, no matter who's in front of you, then you can definitely handle it when it gets to that point where you're in front of some celebrity judges or like 2,000 people in front of you with cameras. Like there's a lot of stress that goes on behind the scenes on top of like being in a cold studio. You have to think about your voice and if you've eaten and if you've rested and are what you've eaten before you perform, like all of that, you just don't learn until you make the mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that played a huge part.
Right. Yeah, and not to mention too, you really had to uproot your whole life and dedicate a huge chunk of time to go out there and
Oh yeah.
film. And I mean, like, what? How long was the whole process for you?
So you all saw my blind audition in February, at the end of February, and I had filmed that in either August or September of the previous year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the whole process started, the audition process, because there's like multiple stuff happening for that. So all of it started in July, and then the show ended in March, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing a lot behind the scenes in 2019.
Okay, that's a long time.
And then yeah, and then we stay there for about a month to a month and a half, depending how far in the process you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
So minimum, we stayed there for about a month in the hotel, sequestered there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that had to be nerve-wracking not being able to tell anybody or share your news.
Like, oh my gosh, I
It's like the best
know.
thing in the world's happening to you and you can't tell anybody about it.
I know. And the other thing about it too is that like I'm seeing it at the same time everybody else is. So, you know, it's one thing to experience it in real life, it's another one to experience it as an audience member yourself.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. That was like I was reliving the whole thing. I was dreaming of my audition for like a month after it
Mm-hmm.
happened back in 2019, and no one had seen it yet. So I was just like, I wanna relive it. I want everyone to see it. It was so, and then, you know, seeing it on TV was like, okay, yeah, it was as amazing as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow,
it
that's incredible. So what
was-
has life been now that what's it been like now that you're home? I know you have a new single out. What how has it changed your life now?
I mean, going into the show, I didn't expect for my life to look like how it is now
Mm.
because of COVID, of the civil rights movement, of this crazy election and politics. It's been a lot more grounded than I expected it to be. Uh, I guess, you know, I'm really happy that it is how it is now. Um, Everyone's just kind of in their homes and taking a step back, and so that's allowed me to work on my video editing skills and my organizing skills.
Yeah.
I've I've been writing, prepping for my album to come out next year, and
Hmm.
um, I feel like I'm always restarting my album. I feel like every time I get a little further in some songs, I step back and I'm like, I don't resonate with them anymore. And
Really?
I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want those three songs on there. So
Do
I feel like,
over.
yeah. So this is a time to kind of like sit back and work on that. So I have been able to do a lot of interviews through Zoom. I haven't had to travel much through, you know, for gigging or anything like that.
Hmm.
So I guess I like that because I hate being on planes.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I've just been doing some creating. I came out with my single Room to Grow with my friend Mark Pelly. We filmed a music video that came out in August, so that's available on all
Hmm.
platforms. And then we're working on another one called Don't Go.
Okay.
And it's like a moody breakup song, but not really a breakup song.
Hmm.
That gray area.
Yeah.
So that's going to be coming out next month, along with the music video. Um, and yeah, it's been really fun to kind of hunker down and just do a little bit more reflecting on where I want to go next.
Hmm.
I think with quarantine and COVID, um, it's definitely expanded my ideas of what I could do.
Hmm.
Ironically, right? I'm stuck in the house, so I'm just
Right.
imagining all the great things I could do in the future. So, yeah, so it's been nice. It's been
Yeah.
nice.
What's the album like?
It's very honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very honest. But as far as musically, um, musically, it's I feel like it'll come to life a little bit further as I get everything mixed and mastered.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really inspired by sounds of bossa nova and reggae and Spanish, and you kind of get
Okay.
a little bit of that in my song Room to Grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm basically R&B and soul, at the core.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of mostly that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be nice and chill
Yeah.
with a little bit of salsa.
That's so cool. I can't wait to hear it. I want to ask you about a quote. This is a quote from you that I saw. It's about, I think you were quoting it because you were talking about a short film that you were just featured in. And you say, I have been blessed with many gifts, one of them being the gift of discernment. I recognize that it's time to give myself permission to have the audacity to live unapologetically.
Yeah.
What gives you the audacity to do that? I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was inspired from the film Play Out Loud. I mean, it's very short, it's like 4 minutes long.
Okay.
But QSC has a campaign called Play Out Loud. And when I first heard that, I was like, what does that mean to me, you know? Um, Ever since I met my friend Malachi, he's the drummer of the first band I was ever in 5 years ago. And ever since I met him, I stopped doing what I was doing and I just kept gigging and I kept performing and I started taking it more seriously and more opportunities came. And sometimes the thought would come to my mind, and I was like, "Who do I think I am?" Like
Right.
when I would send an invoice saying $1,000 for 2 hours, I'm like, "Who are you, Cedrice?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool! I could get paid this much, to do something that makes me happy."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I thought of Play Out Loud, it was just like, yeah, have the audacity to do that. Like, have the audacity to live in to freaking live and to practice your craft and show people what you're made of, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's, I mean, you can't play out loud without being in people's faces or like being noticed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, at this point in my life, I've definitely made a lot of mistakes in my personal life, in my musical life, in my spiritual life. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, been there, done that. Let me go ahead and try something. Um, Let me just try to do it right this time. And yeah, so I'm just giving myself permission to do that. I feel like the older I get, the less I care. And I think a lot of people think
Yes.
that too, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
The less
I
you care,
completely don't care at all anymore.
the
Oh God. But you know what? You have a long journey in this. I mean, going back to your childhood, and this is something that you've really become. I don't know what the word is. An advocate or you're a role model. You've dealt with alopecia all your life, and do you mind telling me how that journey has kind of evolved from childhood into, the artist that you are now and how that impacts your career?
Yeah, so it's really parallel with each other. I've told a couple of people I was diagnosed at 10 years old. I was wearing wigs until I was 24 years old. I was going to a creative performing arts school when I was 10. But because I was bullied there and it was like I was dealing with the whole bald thing, it was just really weird, a weird time for me. I
Mm,
stopped singing and I stopped going to that school.
mm,
Then between 10 and 24, I was wearing wigs. I was trying to figure out how to fit in. I was trying to figure out who I was. Like, and, in middle school and in high school, it's about what you wear. It's about like your social status. And
yeah.
I just recently talked to some teenagers at like a support group for alopecia kids, and they were saying the same thing. It's really even now, it matters what you look like on social media. It matters what you wear. And so that's what I was really focused on. So when I was 24, I fell into a depression. I was like, what the hell am I doing at San Diego State? Like, I'm I don't know what I'm doing. There's not enough motivation. There's not enough incentive for me to get an A in this on this test, and to really, I don't know. There was just a lot going on. Then I met Malachi, and I joined a band, and this all happened at the same time that I was going through this kind of identity crisis. Like, who am I? What do I want? What are my passions, aspirations, and whatnot? And it was during that time that I started gigging that I was like, okay, maybe I need to embrace my uniqueness, and feel more comfortable. So I did away with the wig when I was on stage because I knew that people didn't care how I looked as long as I looked interesting.
Yeah.
So, and as
Yeah.
long as I sounded interesting and performed fun, they wanted to feel good through me.
Yeah.
So I stopped wearing my wig, started performing even more, and it just was a snowball effect from there. So I got a lot of it was almost like a reward for stripping myself of that layer,
Mm-hmm.
and then embracing my, who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because even today, like, so I haven't shaved my head for maybe almost 2 weeks, and my hair is growing back. But
Mm-hmm.
with alopecia, you get like these spots, and I don't know if you can see them, but there's like spots here and there, and it doesn't grow
Okay. Yeah.
fully. And I usually like cut it off completely. But when I went to that support group, on Zoom with all these other kids and teenagers, they want to keep the hair they have. And
Oh
for me,
yeah.
I've been shaving it off and being comfortable in that because it looks cool. But then I started growing it out not too long ago, and I was like, oh, now I remember why I was so insecure before, because I walked out today, or no, I walked out yesterday to IKEA, and everyone was like staring at me. And it is frustrating, but at the same time, it's just people are interested. They're like, what is
Mm-hmm.
going on? What's most frustrating is when people stare and they're saying, oh, do you have cancer? Or I know, I have some treatment for a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bruh, if I did
Mm-hmm.
have cancer, that would not make me feel good.
Right.
I'm not, it's okay. I don't, and so it just reminds me, uh, just growing my hair out like this reminds me of how much the image, like people pay attention to the image, and so music gave me something else to focus on, like
Mm-hmm.
outside of my wig, outside of my clothes or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of how it all aligned, with my music career, and how music really allowed me to embrace it and be like, whatever,
Yeah.
I don't care that much.
Yeah, that is such a powerful story. And I love hearing it so much because it's just like you said, when you finally embrace that thing that makes you feel so different, that makes you feel so not normal or not like everybody else, when you finally embrace that in your life, that's the gold. That's it, and it's like um I don't know if you do consider it a reward, but I mean, your your career is going nuts and you have so many people that look up to you. You're making a huge difference in people's lives. And that's just got to be, that's got to really fill you up a lot.
It does. It really does. Because I'm just living my life and trying to be comfortable with myself, trying to grow into my womanhood and figure out what works for me and my relationships. And so when other people see that and they come to me and they give me feedback and say, oh, I inspired them or something, I'm like, oh, wow, I was just living. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. So it
Yeah.
is really rewarding. And what I learned too is that, um, you can look a certain way, you can look different, um, or you can have something that's strange or eccentric about yourself. And as long as you're okay with it, people will start being okay with it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a funny reverse psychology thing. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I definitely learned that at a live performance once where I was feeling really insecure. I was like, no one's paying attention. And then, that was the first hour, and then the second hour was me and the guitar saying, whatever, screw everybody else. We're just gonna have fun together. So we started jamming together, and that's when we realized that people started watching us a lot more. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, they just want to see us in our own
Yeah.
in our own environment. They want to escape with us.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, you give yourself permission to like be yourself, and other
Hmm.
people start saying, "Oh, I like that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I identify with that." So it's really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's amazing. What do you um what do you want people to understand about alopecia, and what are you how do you encourage the especially the teenagers that you're talking to about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the teenagers and for the young kids and for anybody who has alopecia, because no matter what age you are, if you lose your hair, it does something to you.
Yeah.
Um, it's like losing a limb. People expect to have it and they don't expect to lose it.
Mm.
Um, and so they have to adjust. So for me, I think um, there is, even during this time, everyone's kind of looking for some sort of normalcy, right? With the Black Panther, he was so important because
Hmm.
that gave the kids, Black kids, someone to identify with, to see themselves in that. And so for
Hmm.
me, having alopecia, seeing for other people who have alopecia, seeing me on stage doing my thing in confidence, that gives them some sort of normalcy and says, oh, they can walk out and walk their dog without a wig and be okay because Cedrice did it on TV. I could
Yeah.
do it, at the mailbox.
Hmm.
So that's definitely what I want kids to, what I want to encourage kids and anybody who has alopecia to do. And I think that is the message for other people who don't have alopecia. If you see somebody who doesn't have hair, who has spots in their head, you don't point and laugh and be like, "Oh, you have bald spots," and da-da. No, just, "Oh yeah, I saw that one girl. She has alopecia too." You know,
Hmm.
it's nor
Hmm.
it's gonna have to just be a normal thing. Everyone's different. There are things that happen that aren't happening to you, and it shouldn't be a shock factor. It should just be like, "Oh, this is interesting," or whatever. So that's kind of, I think, giving some sort of normalcy is what I kind of want
Yeah.
to transmit to people.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for being this light in the world. I think that you're making a huge difference, and that, I think that's what being uh, artistic is really all about. Is like what are we doing this for in the first place? I think a lot of us kind of get into music and we have these, I don't know, images of what we think our careers are going to be like. It's going to be going on The Voice and
Yeah.
becoming a huge star. It's all those things, but at some point you're kind of faced with just the kind of the behind the scenes look at what the industry's really like, and some of those things that we're trying to attain just at some point they just don't matter anymore. But um, when you can take the journey of your life and turn it outward like that and just really impact people, it's really, really powerful. I think it's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it being on stage when someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, I had a really bad day, but you guys turned it around. Thank
Yeah.
you." Even something like that. That's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of
Mm-hmm.
those reminders, like, okay, cool, I'm bringing light into the world. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You really are. I'm curious to get your take on, so singers right now. I think everybody kind of is in a different position, just depending upon where you live. What aspect of the industry you're in right now. But in many, many communities, a lot of careers have been put entirely on hold.
yeah.
And a lot of people have, stopped singing altogether, stopped creating, stopped having any hope that they're going to be able to perform next year. Um, and I'm curious what your take on that is, because I hear more and more often the thought, I'm just going to wait until everything kind of goes back to normal and then I'll jump back in it, when things are regular. What do you think about that?
Um, I can understand it. I can understand it because before I came out with my song Room to Grow, I was thinking there is a huge civil rights movement happening.
Mm-hmm.
Why would anyone want to hear any of my music about love and da da da?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I personally tend to downplay myself a lot, where I'm like, I just do this, or oh, no one's really gonna listen, you know. But then I'm in a position where I get messages from people that are saying um, that what I do is inspiring and motivational, and so I'm lucky in that sense because it's like it like refuels me, right? But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people aren't in that situation where they're constantly getting that, that validation. Um, I think really it's important to, as an artist, if you do identify as an artist, I think it's important as artists to just take advantage of all the time they have
Mm-hmm.
to create and to continue to create, because if things are not normal, people are looking for something
Yeah.
to lift them up, and you can't have enough of that. There are so many songs that have been released, but there's so much more that has
Mm-hmm.
not been released. Like all the songs you've written, or probably even recorded, all the songs I've written and recorded, all the songs in my journal, it's like those are unheard songs. Um, and those are stories not told, So I feel like it's our responsibility, to keep pushing music out there, to keep inspiring people. That sounds kind of corny, but it really is true. It
Yeah.
really is true. It makes such a difference in music. I mean, in entertainment, in movies, in marches. Like, you need music, you need art. And especially during this time, like, this is
Yeah.
like prime time for us, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when all of this lifts, then you have so much to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of my take.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. It really is. And I completely agree. This is such a weird time. It's such a weird time. It's hard to be as excited about any opportunities as maybe we were, before March. It's hard to feel like you're getting any traction or momentum. It's just, I don't know. It's like a lukewarm time. It feels
Hmm.
like, but when I hear, I'm just gonna wait. I don't know. It makes me feel like, just like you said, at some point we are going to be on the other side of this, and I wouldn't want to be just getting started again at that point. There's so much that can be done and taken advantage of during this time, even if it's just putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
You know.
And that, and that's a thing, I think people are very, I think people as in us, all of us,
Mm-hmm.
we're all very impressed by the big things or the big moves,
Mm-hmm.
the big festivals, and so when that's not in front of us, it's hard to see it.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, like the one step in front of the one foot in front of the other, it feels like it's not really doing much. So I can understand, like I said, I can understand if someone feels that way, but the small steps, I mean, that's all progress. That's still
Yeah.
progress, no matter how big or small it is. And you
Yeah.
don't get to those big things until you do the small stuff.
Yeah.
So,
That's so true.
yeah.
Anybody who's had any longevity in their career is going to say, looking back, those small things were the things that one thing led to another, that ultimately led me to the bigger things. So start taking those tiny little steps forward, because you just never know what's going to come of it. So,
Yeah.
um, so for you going into 2021, you have obviously done quite a lot of live streaming and had some, experience with that.
Mhm.
Um, what's your experience been like with that? How do you feel about it? And it looks like you're involved with some pretty interesting platforms, like monetizing.
Yeah.
live streaming, and how do you feel about it?
So my experience with live streaming has kind of been it's been experimental. And I think for a
Okay.
lot of people it's been very experimental.
Yeah.
So um there's one person from The Voice, his name is Micah. He was one of the top fives, and he goes on every single Monday for Micah Mondays for maybe like 15, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, dang, like he's really keeping it up. And I'll click on any time and there will be over 100 people watching.
Wow.
Me, on the other hand, I don't know what he does on the side because me, on the other hand, I'll press live and there's like 15 people. And then within 5 minutes, it's like two people. And it's kind of discouraging. I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
how do I have all these followers and no views right now?
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's been more experimental because um, it's so easy to get to feel discouraged, to feel
Yeah.
discouraged when you're going live, when you're making a post and you don't get the traction that you want. Um, and so what I've done is I've played with going live during golden hour on Saturdays, going live to work out just to give people like something to do in their house. And then eventually I kind of moved away from going live weekly. And then I tried out this little thing called Yellow Duck, where I had a friend with like a mixing board and his computer logged into my Instagram with three other cameras. And then we had like
Whoa.
multiple shots just on Instagram. He could put graphics on the top. So it's like, it says Venmo or tips appreciated. And it says like Venmo, Cedrice. And we had like commercials in between each set.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. It was like I said, experimental. I'd have like 30 people, watching, and it would just be like a regular gig, and I would just take tips.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's so much work just for like it's a
Yeah.
huge setup. Like a guy comes in with his, equipment, sets up for an hour, and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So um now I've teamed up with Mix Global, Mix Radio, and um, Summer Solstice, and just some other. Everyone's trying to do something, trying to create some sort of entertainment. And Instagram is a perfect hub for it. Facebook is a perfect hub for it. And so I've just kind of joined in on it.
Mm-hmm.
The Filipino community has been very open with me and has welcomed me um, onto the events that they're putting on. And so it'll be like a live stream concert, pay $5 for admission, and you can tip and you can chat and ask questions and request songs. And so that's been really fun. And I find that I like that more
Mm-hmm.
than going live on Instagram so often. Um, but what I like to see on Instagram when I'm just making my breakfast in the morning or like eating lunch and stuff is I'll go on Instagram and I'll see my friends from The Voice live at like 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And they'll just be playing with their guitar. And it's just like, it's very intimate. It's just my background music. And I
Uh-huh.
love it so much. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize how nice that is to have
Yeah.
until someone else did it. And, I just felt like I was overexerting myself. I felt like I was overexposing myself too much, going on Instagram too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then I realized that it is really nice just to like sit the camera there or sit the phone there and just I don't know, clean
Yeah.
up your bedroom and listen to someone perform.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been very experimental. I've been able to monetize off of it. But it's definitely just been for tips. It hasn't, I don't know how to make it a source of income. I think everyone's trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like live music and being there,
Yeah.
that energy is just so organic and so elevating.
Yeah.
But that's been my experience so far.
Yeah, it definitely it's a totally different animal, and I like the way you put that too. That it's, uh, not to be discouraged when there's just, a couple of people there. I mean, you're making one person's day, just like you said. You love to have that
Yeah.
in the background. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is in the playback. I mean, people are
Yeah.
busy on the go. A lot of people don't have time to, stop and watch for a long period of time. But so many people go and watch back. And there's so many other things that can spin off of, a live. You can use the content for other things, and and just the experimental factor of it is huge, because like you said, we're all trying to figure things out right now. We're all trying to figure out, what's the next move.
Yeah, I've been surprised with how many podcasts there are now, and I've been inspired to make my own podcast. I don't know what I would talk about, but it's fun. It's a fun little hack to have, um and yeah, yeah, there's a lot of people who go back and
Yes.
watch it. And for me, what I like to have is like the interviews that I've done, I'll take a screen recording of it, take a snippet of it, put it on my posts, and people can get to know me a lot better. And so that's what I really, really like about going
Mm-hmm.
live or yeah, just going live on any platform is that people actually get to know you as a person and
Yeah.
not just as this idol, you know?
Yeah, totally. Speaking of knowing someone as a person, I don't know if you can hear, but I have a child knocking on the door right now, asking me if she can let the dog in. Yes, you can let the dog in, Anna.
Earlier, I was talking, and my boyfriend, he just came back home. He was like, "Babe!" I try to just ignore him. He knows I'm busy.
Yeah, I know. I had the dog outside in the first place because she's so offended when I close my office door on her that she'll just bark and bark and bark. And so I thought
Oh.
she was going to have her feelings hurt if she was in the house while this was going on. But oh
He's
man,
so offended. That's funny.
yeah. So where should we send everybody to check out your music and everything you're doing? Do you have kind of one platform that you use over another?
I use Instagram all the time, and the link
Okay.
in my bio is a link in bio. It's a one-stop shop. You could check out my other social media, the nonprofit organization that I'm in, and then the music on Spotify, iTunes, and all that good stuff. So it's all there on my Instagram, or you can
Mhm.
visit misscedrice.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll definitely link everybody up to that. And this would be a kind of old school or more old school for you, but your song that you did a while ago called Woman is
Yeah,
amazing. Your
thank
video is
you.
incredible. So everybody should definitely check that out. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and do this. And I just want to acknowledge you again for just being who you are and, putting your artistry and your, light into the world. I just think you're incredible. We're all very, very proud of you and, cheering you on. And
I love that. Thank you so much. It
you're,
really means a lot. It's funny, like when you get into something, you don't realize that there's a whole community out there. So it's nice to be part of like the music community out here in Southern California and to meet people like you. So thank you so much for having me and putting me on your platform and sharing what I have.
yeah, thank you. Absolutely. So I'm going to link to all of your socials. And I also want to remind everybody, especially singers, to save the date for November 16th, 17th, 18th. I'm hosting a summit called the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit. There's an amazing lineup of speakers who are going to speak to what's the path forward for us in 2021. How do we keep the artistry going? How do we keep putting our music out there into the world and kind of get the ball rolling again for us? So save the date for that. And thank you, everybody who's watched tonight. We appreciate you spending the time with us. So I guess we'll just say goodnight for now.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. See you later.
Later.